Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Kevin Jones from SAC. We got a lot of information that we're going to cover this morning, and so I'm going to pass over to Sharif, and we have some important news to share. We've got a lot of issues that we're going to cover. So, Sharif, if you could just pick it up and let's charge ahead with our conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, members, and good morning, sector, industry, friends, and family. It's been a while since we've had a presentation or a webinar or any form of information sharing with the sector. Perhaps a little bit overdue, but a lot has been happening over the last couple of months. And today we thought it was incumbent that we got together and shared as much information as possible with you. The webinar is scheduled for an hour. Whether we'll be able to fit everything in an hour, debatable, but I would like to encourage all of you to post questions, and even if we don't get to it today in this webinar, we will answer each and every question that comes through in the chat. I think the most important thing that we would like to share on behalf of the TPSA current council, which is Dave Tudor, Grant Fryers, David Levington, is that we are joined now by 4 new council members that are willing to take up the challenge of trying to assist our industry and our members. And I'd like to introduce them, but before I do so, 2 of them have offered their apologies. One is Trevor Mojela, and the reason why Trevor is not with us, he's also a person that sits on the adjudication council or the support team that looks after the 3rd wave relief. He made, and there's an urgent meeting with him and DSAC this morning, and we are looking forward to him joining us possibly in the next half an hour. Next is young Hendrick Nemalili from Morangi Productions. He's also part of the council now. Unfortunately, he urgently had to leave for the Northwest this morning for family issues. He is going to try and join in from the road, but he has offered his apologies for not being here this morning. But joining us now is Gary Sam and Langa Manunga, and I'd like to officially welcome them as the TPSA chairperson, and then ask them to introduce themselves to the colleagues, the members, and the sector. So, Gary, if we could start with you.
Sure, thanks. Yes, my name's Gary. I'm a freelancer, freelance lighting designer operator. I have been in the industry for over 20 years, 20-something years. And yes, I am here to, as you say, to help people within the sector, to help freelancers and whatever needs to be done.
Brilliant, thank you, welcome. And then this next gentleman needs no introduction. Everybody in the country knows this man. He has got a reputation second to none. He's an officer and a gentleman and an astute professional in his field. Ladies and gentlemen, Langa Manunga.
Thanks, Sharif. Thanks for that glowing intro. Yes, my name is Langa Manunga. I'm a player in the business, although I don't look as much old, but I've been in the business for almost 20 years as well, or just over. Currently plying my trade or contracted to GEAL South Africa as a project management team leader, and I'm here to help enhance the creation of the forum for debate and discussion, and hopefully improve some of the areas that need urgent attention in the business. Thank you.
Thank you, Langa. Thank you and welcome. So we have quite a few items on our agenda that we'd like to go through. The first thing on our agenda is one thing. As the TPSA and SACIA, there is an event that's taking place on the 25th. It's called Africa Rising, and it is an extension of the Light SA Red campaign, and its primarily core is the funding for Feed Our Crew. And if you guys are not aware of it, I would strongly recommend you get involved, because over and above it funding Feed Our Crew, it is also an opportunity for us in the sector as individuals or companies to try and raise funds for yourself. And how it works is, you know, once you've registered and you've got your unique link, all you need to do is share it. And if you share it, you stand the opportunity of not only just winning some awesome prizes, but you also stand the chance of earning some money out of it. And fundamentally, that's the most important reason. But it's also the opportunity to promote our industry and promote our technical industry and our creative industry. And as TPSA, we support Africa Rising, as I said, as an initiative of Light SA Red. So I just wanted to give you feedback on that it takes place this Sunday, the 25th of April. Please log in. All the details, I'll ask Kevin to put it into the chat, the link and the what have you. But I strongly would like to recommend and ask our community and our members to have a look at it if you have not, and support it as much as possible, for, if not for any reason, but then to feed our crew, so that we can look after especially our freelancers that are really struggling out there at the moment while we're still under lockdown. And we need to stand together as a community with Ubuntu to make sure, at the very least, we can put a plate of food on the table of our colleagues, our brothers and our sisters. So I really like to encourage that. I don't know if there's anybody in the team on the panel would like to echo anything further, Dave, Grant or David. Other than that, I'd like to carry on. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the one thing the TPSA and SACIA has been intimately involved with the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture, is the Transformation Forum for Technical Production and the live events industry specifically, and the broader commitment to transformation across the sector. And sitting on that council, on that board, is Kevin Jones. And if you could give us a quick feedback with regards to what's happening with that Transformation Council, and if you don't mind telling us who else sits on that council, just for transparency's sake. Over to you, Kevin.
So thanks, Sharif. There are a couple of people that serve on that Transformation Council along with me. Chairman of the council is Opar Salamani, who many people will know from the Jazz Foundation. I'm the vice chair of the council, and then some of the other members, Glenton de Kock from SACI, Chana Mpololo from SAMPA, the South African Music Promoters Association, Freddie Nyatela from SARA, Sue Gannon, who's a member of the SACIA board. Previously, Sue was the executive director of EXA, the Events and Exhibitions Association. Janet Landy from the International Festival and Events Association. And I hope I haven't left anybody out. I probably have, and if so, I apologize, but a fairly diverse group of people that are working together to produce the new BEE scorecard specifically for the technical production and live events industry. In fact, I've just remembered two people that I left out. Gabby LaRue from TUMSA has just been co-opted onto that council, as has Quinton Fredericks from the IPO, the Independent Producers Organization. So the group is working to develop a new BEE scorecard specifically for the technical production and live events industry. Our mandate is to complete the task as soon as possible, and then roll out a process of member engagement where we'll be running roadshows in various parts of the country, and that is scheduled to take place between now and probably mid-year, June, July. So we're actively working on the development of this Transformation Charter Council that will drive a process of transformation within the technical production and live events industry.
Fantastic. Actually, thank you very much.
At the delegates, I see Nigel Walker is online, and Nigel was one of the founders of that particular committee, probably 8, 9, 10 years ago. So it's a process that's been ongoing for quite a significant period of time.
And justifiably so, Kevin, and I'm pretty sure there's some stellar work being done. I mean, listening to the delegates or the your fellow council members. It's quite eclectic and quite representative of our industry, and I'm pretty sure collectively together the transformation of the technical production, the live events industry, and the commitment to it is in great hands. Is there any direction? Do we know how long this process will take, or is it just something that's ongoing that will be transformed or changed over continuously?
No, so essentially what's been happening is that we started the process, and then for various reasons it was started within the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, and then it was transitioned over to the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. And in that transition, there was a delay in progressing the whole program. But the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture picked it up again a couple of months ago. And so now we're meeting on a regular basis. We get together every Wednesday. We've been tasked with creating this project on a fast track basis. And our expectation is that we were aiming to have it completed by the end of April. In draft form. Unfortunately, it's taking a little longer than we had hoped, primarily because the level of support that has been available from DSAC for this particular project has been lacking. But I want to stress for this particular project, because we are working on other projects with them where they've been very supportive and very engaged. So it is one of their priority projects. They've asked us to complete our draft documentation as soon as possible, and we're looking to roll out these kind of end user engagements from May onwards, and we're hoping that the process will be completed by the end of July.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, on behalf of the TPSA, I would like to thank Sakya and yourself for hosting the banner high and making sure that we're part of this Transformation Council, because it's something that's sorely needed. So thank you very much. Whilst we've got you talking, I think the next point is some actually very exciting news. Most of you will remember that Sakya has put together the Event Safety Council, which has been very active this year. And the Event Safety Council was instrumental in around May or June of last year of putting together a reopening guideline protocol document following in line of the SASCOC Act and the Event Safety Alliance from the UK and from Europe and America. And it has been presented to DSAC, it has been presented to NatJoints, and of the beginning part of this year, the sporting fraternity turned to the Event Safety Council, or vice versa rather, and started engaging on augmenting slightly that document for it to look at spectators attending some of our sporting greats that are going to be coming through. I think we've got the British Lions tour, and then some of the cricket stuff that needs to have happened. And together with SASCOC, a presentation has been made with regards to our reopening protocols via the Event Safety Council and Sakya. And I believe you have some interesting news for us, Kevin, if you don't mind sharing that with us, please.
So I'm happy to share it, but to be honest, I've added Mike Lord as a panelist. And I need to credit Mike as having done most of the work for this particular project. And so if Mike is available, I think it would be perhaps more appropriate to ask Mike if he can share his input.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, we presented our initial event guidelines, which excluded sports, in June last year. We went through quite a rigorous kind of engagement process across all the various ministries in putting it on the table. We then went ahead and did our own events and conferences as the SA Event Council, and the Event Safety Council worked closely with them. We then did further roadshows and engagements with each of the cities. We tried to meet with the SA Police, but they weren't interested really in meeting with us. And we were advised to go through the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and the Department of Tourism in our engagement in reopening events. And obviously we went down to Alert 1 in October, November last year, which meant that we were able to do some form of eventing. And then when we shifted back to Alert Level 3 in December, when we've come out of it now in February, our industry's basically come to a complete standstill. One of the things that we then got involved with was dealing with SASCOC and the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture in writing spectator guidelines. We used all the information that we already had from the Event Safety Alliance, that we already had from Safety Sports Grounds in our initial documents, and we repurposed it for spectators. And we presented that to DSAC last week, and in fact got invited to Nat Joints via the NCC yesterday, and we have a follow-up session with them on Monday. And that is about pushing the number from 500 outdoors, 250 indoors to a higher number. And the only way we can do that if we're planning for events September, October, November, is that we, if we are restricted by capacities, we then can go above the restrictions if we have, rapid test kind of testing regime, which means that we can get to 50% of venues, we can get to 5,000, 15,000 people while the vaccination rollout plan happens. So that's the engagement that we're having at the moment. We seem to have got across where we are with the Nat Joints, and now it's a process about what that looks like. There is a third wave coming. We'd like to think there isn't, but we really think that we might even be in it, and we don't know because the testing regime has kind of fallen away. So the challenge simply is that we can expect to go back to alert 2 or alert 3 in the coming months, and that's going to really stunt our industry. So how do we plan for events September, October, November? We can only do that with some kind of enhanced screening, and that enhanced screening is going to land up being rapid testing. I know the issues around costing is probably the biggest conversation, but there's a lot of discussion going around how we can fund this, how we can get around this. In my opinion, when there's a will, there's a way. So we continue to have these discussions, and we are expecting some kind of rollout. Will not take another 12 months. Thanks, Kevin.
So Mike, is it safe to say that your engagement with Nat Joint has been received with open arms, or have you been shut down? Is it a battle?
So this is our first time that we're going to be allowed to present directly as an industry. And what was interesting is we went there under the sports banner, but the DG contacted us literally the night before and said, no, you need to be talking events and all events, both business and live events and entertainment events and cultural events and church events. So the conversation shifted quite quickly into a broad aspect. And what we're being asked to bring back on Monday is actually how you differentiate between the different events, what are the protocols, and what we're saying to them is the protocols don't change depending on the environment. They are the same. So whether you're in Qatar at the FIFA World Cup Club Champs, or whether you're at a concert, or whether you're at a theatre, or whether you're an exhibition, the principles are all the same. You need a risk assessment, you need a mitigation plan against those risk assessments. Social distancing is the requirement because the infection happens through droplets, and you've got to have clean and hygiene. And you've got to be able to know who's at your event. So those things still are in principle there. We're going to be much more advanced than a casino. We're much more advanced than a mall. And all those environments, we've explained them. We've explained transport. We've explained all these environments, but we still have this paint of we're a super spreader. So we better get that over the line. And our way of getting that over the line is to say, like the rest of the world, rapid testing is the solution for higher numbers. And home testing is a solution over the next 9 to 10 months, but we're going to have to do some kind of form. So right now it's about getting that opportunity.
Mike, thank you, and Kevin, thank you, and the Event Safety Council. You've done a lot of work behind the scenes. I know I've been part of it with you from May, June last year, and it's still ongoing, but clearly there's been some headway. And on behalf of the TPSA and the members, we'd like to thank the Event Safety Council for all the work that you put in thus far, Mike, and we look forward to great changes for our sector. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. Kevin, any other comments before I move on to the next topic?
No, other than I think, one of the things that Mike and I have both experienced in our engagements with Nat Joints and with sorry, Hendrick just sent me a note. One of the things that we've experienced with both Nat Joints and DSAC is that there is a real willingness to engage with us as a means of getting the industry back to work. They're very aware of the challenges that people in our industry are facing, and so I know that there has been conversations where various people have accused the department of failing in their responsibility to look after the cultural and creative sector. From my perspective, actually they are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are absolutely aware of the challenge that our industry is facing, and they are engaged actively with us to try and find solutions without creating an opportunity for an explosion of the spread of this COVID virus. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I think on that, what we do need to let our members in the sector know is when this pandemic hit us right in the very early stages, various associations got together and created, for the want of a better word, a lobby group. And that's called the SA Events Council, which is got SACI, EXA, AXO, SITE, Event Greening Forum, and various other associations that got together to try and see how we can assist our sector moving forward, both from a live events and a business events. And I must say the SA Events Council has engaged tremendously with the Department of Tourism and has actually worked continuously with them, as well as with the Department of Employment and Labour, working out various challenges with regards to and solutions, especially when it comes to rapid testing and the likes thereof. And just basing it on what Kevin is saying, it's that type of engagement that has, with a little bit of perseverance, is slowly starting to bear fruits. Right in the beginning stages, when we started our Light SA Red campaign and our continuously trying to communicate with the minister that we wanted a seat at the table, it didn't take very long that where eventually we were listened to and we did get that seat at the table. Unfortunately, bureaucracy and red tape has its own journey to travel. As much as us as humankind, we want things to happen now, we want it to happen tomorrow. It's easier said than done. And then at the earlier part of this year, because of our engagement as SACIA, TPSA, Light SA Red, and the SA Events Council, the Minister of the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture had various meetings with the creative sector via Freedom Park, and to which that the early parts of February this year, he created a ministerial advisory team, pulling in various people from the sector, including myself, representing SACIA and the TPSA, and appointed me convener, provided that we could look after specific portfolios and work streams that is currently affecting our sector. So it has taken some time to get where we are today, but the engagement with the department is there, it is apparent, it is working, and I can attest to how they're engaging, the amount of meetings that we have even at 10 o'clock at night, on a Saturday, on a Sunday. It is happening, it is taking place, and I do understand the frustration of many that it's not happening fast enough. But as you can hear and see previously with what Mike Lord has been doing and his team with the Event Safety Council and with NatJoints trying to open up the sector and lift it from the 250 to 500, we obviously have to tread very carefully with that, because of not repeating what happened in December, where our sector was literally blamed because of the rage events for being super spreaders. So unfortunately, it's easier said than done, but the wheel is turning. And with that, and with the ministerial advisory team, one of the portfolios, there's various portfolios we're busy on, and I'd like to bring you up to speed with the work that's being done so far. And the first one is our engagement, because of the minister instructing the minister of, no, should I say not instructing, because it's minister to minister, requesting that a minister of basic education engage with us. Because the one thing we found in our sector, whether it be technical production, whether it be creatives and artists, that we are struggling with some of the government schools, whereby school fees are due, whereby we are getting letters of demand and the likes thereof. And I'm happy to tell you that document will be coming out soon, where I can speak categorically with fact, after speaking with the Department of Basic Education, that there are over 25,000 government schools in South Africa. Of them, 3,700 are fee-paying schools, which were your old Model C schools. And I am happy to tell you that as of the 26th of March, all of us that have been unemployed from the sector and can prove it, which we all can, you are not liable for 2020 school fees, categorically. and you are not allowed to sign an acknowledgement of debt because you are exempt from it. You do need to follow the protocol of each school and fill out all the documentation that they request you to, so that also for 2021, you will be exempt from school fees. This is a fact. This is not a lie. We can prove it. A document will be coming out signed by the minister, which will show these journeys that you need to travel, but this will prevent you from not having to pay any school fees or being harassed in any form whatsoever. So that has taken some time to get there, but we've accomplished it as the Ministerial Advisory Team, which now comes out of the sector assisting the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture. And I think that's some great news for us in the sector when it comes to school fees. Unfortunately, we cannot speak for independent or private schools because they're completely on their own. They're their own business, as is everybody else's, and can charge and do as they wish. But for government schools, this is great news for the school paying CP school, for our sector, that you are exempt from paying any form of school fees or any debt for 2020. If you still owe for 2019, unfortunately, we cannot help you there. But that is something that is definite. Kevin, anything you wanted to say, or can I move on?
No, I think move on if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. The next one is the engagement with the Department of Human Settlements on issues relating to rental properties and the eviction of persons from rental properties. So what has happened, there are three components. So many of us rent homes, we don't own homes. Now let's just park the fact that some of us that own homes and or are renting from homeowners that still owe the bank. That's a different topic for now. So a homeowner that owns his home for free or and is now renting it out, after approaching COGTA and having long discussions with them, we are now engaged with Human Settlements and with the Housing Tribunal, who are the custodians of rental agreements under Human Settlements and the Act thereof. Under the Disaster Act, nobody can be issued a notice, nobody can be evicted. Should there be mitigating circumstances for that, the only way it can happen is by going to court and getting a court order. But unlike the Disaster Act, if I want to go and get a court order to evict Kevin Jones has to appear in court as well and give his reasons why he cannot move. And especially if you're part of our sector and can prove it, and it has happened on 1, 2, 3 occasions and can be proven, it will be in the favor of the person renting the property. This is a fact. We are still trying to work out what we can do with Human Settlements and Housing Tribunal with regards to from a bank perspective. But under the Disaster Act, you are protected. Under the Constitution, you are protected. You have a right to a roof over your head, and you cannot be evicted, and you cannot be issued a notice. If you are, I think many of you have received the document that's already been signed by the Minister of Department of Sports and Arts and Culture, where he is requesting and pleading in that regard, but also notifying of Regulation 73 and 74 of the Disaster Act, which speaks categorically to evictions and to issuing of notices. Now, there are very few people, there's not many people that know this, and this is why we wanted to bring it to the attention via this webinar, as with all these other points. And also for everyone to understand that the work that's going on behind the scenes via the TPSA and via SACIA is not just from yesterday. This has been ongoing for the last year. Kevin and I specifically have been doing some major work, but from the TPSA, we've now realized, between myself, Grant, David, and Dave, we cannot anymore. We need help. Thus, us bringing in Langa and Gary and Trevor and Hendrick. So that was the next topic. I'm going to move on to the next point because of timing. Okay, one of the issues that came up from our sector was with regards to COIDA and workmen's compensation, and I need to find my document in that regard. So what has been happening, despite the implementation of various relief funding programs and what have you, there seems to be a challenge, and there was a challenge with COIDA, especially for the end of 2020 and into 2021 for those letters of good standing that has lapsed. And that would, if you were to go back and wanting to get a new letter of good standing, they were initially not really interested. You'd have to pay your full fee or what you needed to pay to make sure that you could get your letters of good standing. And obviously we haven't been working, and to a certain extent most companies have either released staff or they have retrenched staff. And with that being in mind, the various percentage of 29% is no longer relevant. So after engaging with the Department of Employment and Labour, a couple of things that they've put into place is they've changed the variance percentage to 50% of income on salary bills, as well as allowed for the payment arrangements, which they have before, but only for 3 to 4 months. But now they've arranged for a 12-month payment arrangement. So this should make your life easier, especially if you've now given, still employed your staff at a 50% or whatever percentage reduction in salary, and or retrenched. This will still allow you the opportunity as a company owner in our sector to go forward and apply for work at a corporate level that still wants a letter of good standing. You will be able to receive one if you can pay it in full. If you can't pay it in full and you are paying it on an installment basis, after each month of installment, you will then receive a letter of good standing just for that month. The nice thing is, if you do pay in full compared to the past, you can now get your letter of good standing online. We've requested that and it has happened, but the one that is monthly, unfortunately, is manually, and that may take some time. But in the greater scheme of things, there has been some headway in that regard, and I'm quite happy to report that Department of Employment and Labour does look favorably to our sector and has come to the party to assist. And again, because of the efforts of the Ministerial Advisory Team and the likes of the SA Events Council, the TPSA and SACIA. So this is the kind of work that we've been doing and putting together. The next part is still with the Department of Employment and Labour, and this is an issue surrounding TERS. For the most part, that has been taken care of, ladies and gentlemen, but just to bring you up to speed for those of you that do not know, they're currently with the process of doing payments from October to December, and that was supposed to take place now in March. But with the concern about the SIC codes coming into play, it has stalled the process. Now, one of the main reasons of bringing in the SIC codes is because, unfortunately, there have been many people out there that have been fraudulently claiming from TERS, and they've needed now to put some security systems in place, thus the SIC codes. And many of us, our SIC codes don't correspond to our CIPC, SIPC codes. And because of that, we've been, so we've been kicked out of the system. However, an appeal system has been put into place, and that kicked in on the 6th of April. And again, after engaging with Department of Employment and Labour, they have advised us of two things. As long as when you do apply and then you go to appeal, you need to present a portfolio of evidence that you are from the sector via your association, whether you're associated with TPSA, SACIA, or whomever else. So in other words, a portfolio that you are from the sector, as well as documentation from SARS that shows your coding from the event industry. If you can do that, then your appeal will be accepted and TERS can then be paid out as soon as humanly possible. Now, like I said, they did want to do it in March. It has been delayed because of the appeal system, so it's taking a little bit longer, but there is a process now in place to facilitate this. So much so, there will be a document that will be presented shortly with exact contact numbers and email addresses as soon as I get it back from the Minister for direct contact with regards to whether it be COIDA or TERS with regards to your appeal or challenges thereof. And again, I think this is an accomplishment for our sector, and I'm very happy that this is taking the steps that it's taking to make sure that our sector can still survive in the interim whilst we're trying to reopen it so that we can carry on working.
Sharif, can I just jump in? Yeah, sure. If I could just jump in for a second there. So, so one of the things that is required in the appeal is a portfolio of evidence, including a document demonstrating that you are a member of an association active in the events industry. I'm very aware that several of our members have not been able to renew their membership fees for 2021 and maybe in a situation where their membership has lapsed. So we are quite happy to provide a letter confirming that an organisation is a member of SACIA or the TPSA, even if your membership has lapsed. If you were a member at any time in the last few years, we'll provide you with a letter confirming that you are active in industry.
Thank you for that, Kevin and Sakia. I think that's great news for our members out there, and I think our members should make full use of this opportunity because tides are changing with regards to what's happening. This pandemic has forced many things to change, and government has realized this. When we do come out of this pandemic, there are going to be various policy changes, and I can speak to that, especially for the next topic, where we are currently engaged with the banking world, and this is a very sensitive one, and it's taking its time. Now, obviously, banking and SARS go hand in hand, and many of us, whether we're home owners, property owners, warehouse owners, asset owners of technical, the likes thereof, the banks have been phoning and harassing us relentlessly for payment, as much as they understand, but they're doing their job because they need their money. So what we have been doing, and this has been a tough one, ladies and gentlemen, we've already engaged SARS, where we are looking at changes of relief in the sense of output VAT being halted for the next 24 months. So if we are operating, we can still make use of that output VAT as a cash flow for our business. We're looking at adjusting items 12E and 12J of the income tax. We're looking from an individual perspective of capping it and reducing it from the 26% to maybe a 5% cap. There are various things we are busy with, and as much as SARS are willing to listen and talk, there are many things they cannot do because of it being policy, which means it has to be changed from a legislative perspective. So engagement with COGTA in this regard is of paramount importance, because under the Disaster Act, we can do legislative change, but easier said than done, because before SARS can make any changes with any of the tax relief that we are looking for, which we would like to do for 12 to 24 months, as well as 12 months post the pandemic, or us allowing to go back to work, which will then allow us to rebuild ourselves, it has to go through National Treasury. National Treasury, again, they sit with the tax policy legislation, and they are the kingmakers and making sure this happened. We have had 2 meetings with the National Treasury. The next meeting, and every time we've met it, we've been received, but have requested, we need this document, we need that document, we need this understanding. And we're trying to, we are putting this all together. And now for our next meeting, it will be a meeting between ourselves, National Treasury, who has a specific component for sports, arts and culture. They will also be bringing in their tax policy department, and we are to bring in SARS. So that's going to be a big, long meeting to see what we can do so that we can go back to COGTA to request legislative change under the Disaster Act to ensure that we can get some type of relief and stop the phone calls from coming through. Now, that is from a legislative point of view. In a layman perspective, what we are trying to arrange, and we have already engaged with the Banking Association of South Africa, is that should National Treasury be able to assist us with a special relief fund of a certain amount, we can then put that into a fruit-bearing account via actuaries, which the Banking Association have got a team ready for us, where that money can service your interest on loans that currently exist, whether it be on your home, on your car, on assets, so that the capital stands still, and then the phone calls will no longer come. Now, this will obviously be for 6 to 8 months, pushing it to 12 months, so that once we start our industry up again, you will then be able to service your loan. Now, this special relief fund that will go in there will not be money that you will have to pay back, otherwise you'll be brought into a death trap. But because we are regarded as a moral hazard in the banking world, that it needs to be fine-tuned, and this is what we are busy with at the moment. However, the Banking Association has said categorically, as a professional body, in order for them to assist and facilitate this type of assistance and relief, any member wishing to request this assistance has to be a member of a professional association. This is the only way it's going to work, and this is my plea now to the TPSA members and to the sector. Like I said earlier on, a time is going to come when you are going to apply for a tender, whether it be for government or for corporate, and it's going to say, are you a member of a professional association? Likewise, if you're a nurse and a doctor, are you part of a nursing association? Likewise, with a lawyer, are you a member of a legal association? The similar type of thing is going to happen here moving forward. And my appeal to everybody is start looking that way. You do have a SACWA registered body in SACIA, and I would plead that you start looking at that now. I know nobody has the funds, but moving forward, looking at that, it's going to help us in the long run, especially because of what we're trying to achieve via the Banking Association. So being a member of SACIA is the route to go. Bearing in mind, SACIA is an umbrella body. So there are various components to SACIA, the TPSA for technical production, the Event Safety Council, SEPA, which is the event promoters, film and broad, the BIG, which is broadcast and film and TV. Kevin, can you just go through the?
Yeah,
sorry,
so there
my apology.
No, that's okay. So we have nine chapters that operate within SACIA. We have 3 that are involved specifically in the events industry. So TPSA, Technical Production, Event Safety Council, self-explanatory, SEPA, which is the Council of Event Professionals Africa. I know Glenn van Eck is online, and Glenn is the chairman of the SEPA Council. Then we have 2 councils focused on education. We have the Education Council, which is made up of academics providing training and education opportunities in the sector, and then the SACIA Student Council, which includes on-campus chapters at various universities. And then we move on to the entertainment industry broadcast, which is the Broadcast Industry Group, BIG. We have the audiovisual sector, the Pro AV community. We have a Pro Audio Council that was established during the course of last year, chaired by Tina Smith. And then finally, we have the Content Creation Council, where we embed all of those professional designations that are creative in nature. So the South African Society of Cinematographers, the Guild of Actors, the Independent Producers Organization, all of those sit within the Content Creation Council, and all of the designations that we award are developed and awarded in partnership with those other associations.
Thank you, Kevin. While you are there, can you just speak to us? I know there's a possibility of streaming and virtual events added as a competency to be assessed in applications for a TLE designation. Could you just expand on that for us quickly?
So absolutely I can. We came to realize at the beginning of this pandemic that the nature of the technical production and live events industry had fundamentally changed, and more of our traditional TPSA members were now involved in streaming and the development of virtual events. So we've added that as a competency in the assessment criteria that is used to assess individuals applying for one of our TLE designations. And we've also included within the TLE professional designation an opportunity for individuals to earn professional designation with a specialization in virtual events and streaming technology. So yeah, it's we're still in the final phase of developing those questions and that question base, but we have a task group that's working on it, and I believe that it will be ready for launch during the middle of next month.
Thank you, Kevin. Coming on to the next couple of topics, the other thing that we're involved with, especially with the MAT, the Ministerial Advisory Team, is engaging with the corporate world, who have been quite reciprocating with regards to trying to assist our sector. So much so that we're putting together the opportunity, putting together a fund. So something similar to the PSP. This is going to be a fund for the technical and the creative sector. We've aimed for a goal of 1 billion rand. And some of the corporates that we've been speaking to are quite willing to assist us in that regard. We'll share those details with you as we move along. That's being headed by one of our colleagues called Tabela Dlamini, and it seems very exciting that it's going to work out. But one of the things that we're looking at with our telcos, especially for immediately, is to try and see how we can make sure we've got access to data, whether it be capped or free or capped for 10 gigs a month or whatever, just so that communication can take place, especially for our freelance community. And that's something that we're working very hard on, and hopefully we'll have news about that in the next couple of weeks. So those are things that we're working on as well. But the big thing that we're working on is a wellness program, which is taking place on the 30th of April, kickstarted in Mpumalanga via the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture, and all associations are supporting it. And it's not just a mental wellness, it's a business wellness opportunity for everybody. And yeah, the business wellness is a great thing for us all to understand. We've all been caught with our pants down over this last year of getting our ducks in order, whether it be taxes and banks and finances and what have you. But currently, the report that we got from SADC is that there are currently 23 suicides a day in this country with 450 attempts. I can't tell you specifically which sector, but given that our sector has been the hardest hit, I think it's a no-brainer. And I think we all need to be understanding of our brothers and sisters, especially our freelancers that are hardest hit in this regard. And I think if you could all just engage, and it's called Silapa, just have a look at it, share it with everybody. I think this program under the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture, endorsed by many of the associations, including SACIA, including SIFSA, including TUMSA. I really think that we should all have a look at it. The wellness of the future of our sector is of paramount importance. And this is one sector that we've been involved with vigorously in this last month. And that's one of the things that we've been looking at as well. Now, one of the last things I want to bring up, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring Langa and Gary and the rest of the team in on this. I received a phone call from a colleague in this last week, a member of the TPSA, highly agitated, highly upset that, and this is something that when we got together early last year, we spoke about, is the competition that's going on. And I'm trying to choose the right political words, between companies and people that are undercutting on rates and killing it for everybody that's in our industry, and making it so that the corporate world is lapping it up. And then once we get out of this, the corporate world is going to insist that they still want to stick to the same pricing. Now, Langa has got something I know he wants to say on this. With rates and competition, and I'd like to Langa to come in here and just speak briefly on this topic, if you don't mind, Langa.
All right, that was a bit of off guard. Look,
sorry.
I think various companies employ different modes of operation, and different ways of doing things. But I think fundamentally, the sales principles are the same. And obviously there's necessity, especially now, as custodians of the business, custodians of the industry, to ensure that we maintain some level of integrity within the business, and to ensure that when like you said, when the business gets back to normal, we still expect to operate at the same kind of rates. There are things that there are fixed costs in any business. Crew, transport, fuel, we know we cannot discount on those, you know. But I think there needs to be a conversation that, you know, perhaps outside this forum, specifically about where to draw the line. You know, yes, we can give discounts, you know, and also, you know, my experience is that over the past year, you know, we've moved in sort of a series of waves, you know. There are people who are a bit behind the game now, you know. There are people who are running at the forefront, you know, and they're capitalizing on it, you know. So I think there needs to be open cards and an open debate, further debate, you know, about the issue of pricing and sales. But certainly, I think that discussion needs to happen within the parameters of the custodians, which is mainly most of the people that are in this meeting, and people that we hope will join us as we forge ahead.
Agreed, Langa. You know, actually, you're 100% right with that, and it's a matter of doing it in such a way that we can make sure we keep people in our industry and not chase them away. And you know, I just got a message now to say the same thing again. You know, it's not just the freelancers that are hit; it's also permanent staff, and it speaks not just to the rates; it speaks to the wellness. It speaks to everything else. Kevin, is Alvaro with us? Is he online? And can you open his mic? Can you open his mic for a brief moment?
Let me just see if I can find him.
I think, you know, this is something that we discussed very in the early days about undercutting each other, guys, and I think we really need to stop it. You know, a time is going to come, like I spoke about, when we are applying for tenders, you have to be part of a professional association. And it's not just tenders within government. I say again, any business under the Business Chamber of Commerce, there's going to be a code of conduct that's going to be put into play. So we need to start thinking about these things now already, on how we work with each other instead of undercutting each other. It really, really is important. Even from an event safety council, I was at a shopping mall recently and saw some trussing that got put up, and there was no base plate. It was put up there with bags of sand and tied together with rope. You just need to put 1 4 or 5-year-olds climbing up that thing. That thing's going to fall over and somebody's going to get hurt and die. I immediately engaged with the management of the shopping center and advised that this is the situation. Please, can you rectify it? And then I'll come back to you in a week's time. And if it's not rectified, I will then want to know who the technical company is, because I need to address it. And then we will be laying criminal charges, both against the center as well as the tech house that was involved. These are things that's going to become a reality in the not too distant future. One of the things that we're thoroughly engaging with SACIA is an ombudsman for our sector. And once that's in place, guys, it's going to be detrimental to any one of us that's going to carry on with any form of indiscretion in our industry. So I really would like to plead with everyone in this regard to stop undercutting, because it'll help us in the future when we're going to that corporate and we're standing there and we're all similar with our pricing. It's pointless undercutting, because you're only looking after yourself now and not looking after yourself in the future. Kevin, is Alvaro with us?
So he's not registered as Alvaro. If he's registered as under another name, he could be, but I can't see him on my register here. What I have had is a question, actually a comment from Duncan, and I think it's important to share. Duncan said we need to have some kind of newsletter to get all of this information out to the SACIA and TPSA members. We only have 33 people in this webinar, and if we can get the information out to all of our members, it will gain a lot of confidence within the industry. So just so that everybody's aware, we do have a webinar that's scheduled to be, we do have a newsletter that we've put together, and it's scheduled to be distributed during the course of next week. And as soon as it is available, I'll let everybody on this webinar know. I think the key is that we need to get it out, circulated as broadly as possible. So yeah, if Alvaro is here, I can't see him.
It's fine. I mean, he was one of the people that phoned me, as well as Charles that phoned me, and you know, as TPSA and as a council and as the chairperson, it is their right to phone and complain and lodge these complaints. This is what we are there for, to enforce a code of conduct or encourage a code of conduct, which each of us on this council does, and try and help and assist with the professionalism of our sector and our industry. And this is something this council stands for, and that we're going to be forging forward as we move along. So those are the main topics, Kevin. You know, there was a lot that we managed to cram in there. I don't know if there's any other questions that we can address. I know Langa had something that he wanted to raise. I don't know if you still wanted, you had 2 or 3 questions you wanted to pose, or are you comfortable, Langa? Do you want to ask them or speak?
And Sharif, Charles is here. If you wanted to, I can open Charles up to share.
Yes, if he doesn't mind coming in briefly for 2 minutes, and then we can get Langa thereafter.
So I have added Charles to our list of panelists. He did post
just
something.
So that everybody knows. Thank you. Just so everybody knows, when I engaged Department of Employment and Labour, Charles was with me because he wants to play an active role for our sector holistically. And I admire him for that, because it just goes to show that everybody that wants to get involved is getting involved. And this is one of the reasons both Kevin and I withdrew slightly. And Kevin, if you can open up for Charles to come in, we withdrew slightly from posting so much on Facebook and social media, because there was more negativity than there was positivity. And I'm being open and blunt about it. I just want to do the work and try and help our sector. People that know me and know David and Dave and Grant and now Langa and Gary will know we're here for passionate reasons and not for fame and fortune. We're here because we love our industry. We love the work that we do, and we just want to get it done. Charles, if I can ask you to come in.
Yep, there he is.
Good morning. It's noon. So yes, I was privileged to attend with Sharif. It was all very positive, and I can only but say well done and thank you to the TPSA and for the drive. And you know, a lot of people are saying the relief and the assistance and all of that is very late. But what I can say is, for those who's been in the trenches and has been fighting and going out there, everything is a lot slower than what it was historically. And we must just soldier on and persevere, and we'll get to the other side eventually. The feedback from the Department of Labour was very positive. By no means did they try and hide behind anything other than trying to assist and help us. I know that they've made direct contact numbers, not only email addresses, but even mobile numbers available to Sharif and the committee, which will obviously have to go via the right channels to ensure that we don't bombard them with gifts and funny WhatsApps, but other than the right people get the details and we can communicate with them directly. So well done, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate your words of support. It is greatly appreciated coming from our members and from our sector. Langa, over to you, my friend.
I have 1 minute, but essentially, I was very keen. I mean, I really answered the call. I was invited to be part of the TPSA Council, and I thought, you know, I can't decline the invite. But you know what struck me immediately when in our first meeting is that there wasn't any women in our midst, and for me that's a serious concern, you know. And I thought I need to raise it and I need to table it, and I think we need to make a deliberate effort to make that change. You know, we need to. There are a lot of strong women out there, and they obviously do wonders when they lend a hand. That was mainly my point, and I just wanted to find out what the reach is out in the SADC region. What's happening out in our neighbors? Do you know, Sharif?
Yeah, so yeah, firstly, just to go on your I know we've got very limited time, but from a female perspective, you are 100% right, and I'd like to encourage our members to put forward within their companies to see if we can put somebody forward that can join us. Otherwise, please, as an individual or freelancer, please become a member of the TPSA and please come and sit. We encourage female participation. It is the way of the world. It is the right thing to do. It needs, gender equality needs to have happened. So please, that's a passionate plea from all of us here in the council, not just by myself. So with that, I move on to the next one, SADC. So we've got whatever we are miles ahead, with no disrespect. Botswana is doing a lot of work, but they are still just as clamped down. Their engagement with government is non-existent. Likewise in Swaziland. I think Kevin can extrapolate more, especially like with Namibia and further up north. But the rest of our continent, is following a lot what Europe is doing rather than what South Africa is doing. And how I can answer that is engagement with PLASA and the PSA. And when I explain to them exactly what we are doing with government and the inroads that we are making, they were so taken aback and asked if we could have similar copies of the presentations and proposals so they can adjust it, so they could use it for themselves in Europe, so that they can approach their governments in that regard. But yeah, let me tell you, our SADC regions and brothers and sisters are struggling and with what they're going. So much so, we are the highest when it comes to gatherings of 250 and 500. In Zambia, for example, I think they're sitting on 20. So they are struggling. Kevin, have you got any further details on SADC?
So I can. I think you mentioned Namibia. So last year we ran a road show that took in a number of the SADC countries, and we had a really good feedback from our members in Namibia. Unfortunately, we did it in February, just before the COVID crisis kind of hit us, and so our plans to engage in the development of a chapter in Namibia were kind of put on hold. But certainly we were engaged actively with the industry in Namibia, and they're very keen to start working more closely with us. And exactly the same applies to Swaziland. We hosted a training program in Swaziland during, so I think it was this year. I think the beginning of February there was a little dip in the kind of the COVID numbers, and so we were able to sneak into Swaziland and engage with some of our members there. But SACIA, as a name, we are the Southern African Association, and so as an objective, we want to engage very actively with our colleagues throughout the SADC region.
Yeah, even I'd like to add on to that. Just before COVID, BACWA, which is the equivalent of SACWA in Botswana, are willing to engage with us as SACIA and TPSA for further training and to put a system in place, because you can put an event on in Botswana and you don't even need a structural engineer certificate. And those are things that they want to try and change. And this is why we're trying to create a TPSA chapter in Botswana, and unfortunately it's been stalled because of COVID. But those are things that we will be doing as we move on. Kevin, are there any other questions or polls, or is there any from the team? Which way do we go next with our webinar?
So there are a couple, and I'm just going to read them, and then I think perhaps we can wrap up. So a note from Rashid. I'm going to give you all of these. So Rashid Lombard, hi Sharif, have you discussed a stimulus fund with the minister for companies within our sector, especially tech? I think we may have answered that question already, but if you can pick it up with, and then Kitlejo, is there any way to deal with the overpacked restaurants and clubs that have become the new hub for events? Fly-by-night hustle promoters at a lower level of the industry are making a killing while all the professionals are being prevented from working. Those are the only two questions that have not been addressed. So yeah, and I think actually we may have addressed the issue of the fly-by-night. I think Langa raised that earlier. I don't know if you want to pick it up.
Yeah,
actually,
look, just to
David's been very involved in dealing with some of these overpacked restaurants and fly-by-night operators.
Yeah.
So maybe we throw that one at David.
Yeah, I'm actually going to bring David in here, but just to let you know, the Event Safety Council actually raised this yesterday. SACIA raised this yesterday at the NAT joints when we spoke about social distancing, for example, at a stadium, that there has to be the 1.5. And then we raised the topic of taverns and overcrowded restaurants and what have you. So, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander type of scenario. But I'll let David come in here. David?
Yeah, hi everyone. I don't have that much to say on it, but yeah, I mean, even in the small city of Port Elizabeth, we definitely seeing it, and there's fierce rivalry between promoters of these type of events, extreme fierce rivalry, and it's unfortunate that it's the tech companies, if you can even call them companies, but the guys that are supplying tech are very much under the radar, and these guys are making they're making money, you know, and the guys are going around bragging, yeah, they got 20 odd events booked for the month. They're busy every weekend. So, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, flat out, and the venues are they don't care. The promoters don't care. So. How we address it, I'm not 100% sure. I think the only way really is to enforce the municipality disaster management committees and obviously the SAPS to enforce those, to regulate them, if you want to call it that, or so start clamping down a little bit on these type of illegal events. From speaking to some colleagues in Johannesburg this last week, apparently there's been quite a few. I don't know, maybe other people can have heard similar things where, you know, now with the local elections happening, there's been quite some big what do you call it, concerts and political type rallies happening, and I think we're going to see more of those. As now with the date put towards, I think it's the 11th of October is the local elections. And yeah, I think from an industry point of view, we're going to unfortunately have to call out those companies that are breaking the laws and supplying these events with disregard to the rules and protocols of the industry. So yeah, that's sort of my viewpoint on that topic. But I think one thing that we need to start looking at going into the future, it's something that I've been reading a few articles on, and what's happening in the UK festival scene is this government backing of festivals. When we do become allowed are allowed to host slightly bigger events, is the insurance of cancellations of these type of events. And if some of you pay attention to what's happening in the UK, you'll see quite a few UK festivals are now being cancelled because they can't get insurance backing. That if the government turn around on the 99th minute and say, sorry, you know, you can't hold your festival and you've sold 100,000 tickets, who's going to pay that money back? You can pay back the ticket money to the people, but the organizers have obviously committed hundreds of thousands to artists, to tech companies, and that type of thing. So it's definitely something that we're going to have to start thinking of. Yeah.
Thank you, David. And you're right. But this is why I'm saying it's going to come eventually. where you have to be associated with a professional body, so things like this can be controlled. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah, these elections are going to take place. These taverns and restaurants are going to take place, Kat. Unfortunately, yeah, it's going to be difficult. Mr. Lombard, thank you very much for joining our webinar this morning. It's greatly appreciated. With regards to the stimulus, the PSP stimulus is directed by the various ministries and not directed to specific companies. With regards to stimulus of our country. With regards to DSAC, we have DSAC, from my understanding, has made a further request for a stimulus package. As you all know, BRICS has now made a loan to the South African Reserve Bank and country of $1 billion, which is about 15 odd million rands, to further stimulate our economy, to which is now being, for want of a better word, divvied up amongst the various ministries, so that we can try and assist our kickstart of our GDP. We have made the passionate plea that a lot of it should go to sports, arts and culture, being the last to even get back to work, so that we can stimulate our sector. And there will be news with that regard coming up shortly. And I need to say this to our members, that don't think that it's just for artists or theaters. It is for technical production houses. It is for anybody that's in the creative industry that can apply for the stimulus package. There has been a lot that's been going on with regards to the National Arts Council, but the system works. Put aside the challenges that they've had, the system does work, and it's not just for the creative. Likewise with the third wave. The third wave relief fund wasn't just for the individuals, it is also for organizations. And I would really plead with everyone to keep your eyes open, because they refined it. For example, with the third wave, as long as you have a tax number, you don't have to be tax compliant, but as long as you've got a tax number and an ID and the likes thereof, you will get relief. Likewise for organizations. I will also like to say to our TPSA members that the Mzansi Golden Economy funding is going to be opening up sometime in May. Please be a lookout for that, because you may need to fund to boost your assets, or be part of a streaming event that you're going to start doing, or you need to redo a studio. These also apply to us, and I would like to encourage everybody to make full use of that. With that, we've actually gone 12 minutes over. I'd like to ask everybody from our team just to say 2 minutes, a minute quickly of a closing call, and then we'll wrap it up from there. I'm going to start with Dave Tudor, if you don't mind.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say, I've had the pleasure, the opportunity of working, fortunately, for the last 3 months on a big project in the Middle East with a large production that was consisting of people from all over the world, Bulgarians, people from Latvia, Azerbaijan, Brazil, Canada, Italy, the UK, Ireland, etc. And they all, in their respective countries and their industries, we're all in the same boat. So what we are going through is not unique, so I'm sure we are aware. But also the plight of the industry, and where we may feel that we've been ignored by governments, it's not unique to us. They all go through the same thing. So, I did spend quite a bit of time chatting to people about their struggles in their respective countries, but the results are all the same. We're not alone, and it's going to be a struggle, and the government essentially, for the most part, does see us as a nice to have, and unfortunately the nice to haves when times are tough are going to come last. They've got to get to the essentials first, and what we do for a living, as much as we take it seriously, and it is a major revenue generator for the GDPs for most countries, it is, as I said, a nice to have. But there is hope, and I think as long as we all stick together and we get over the bullshit of the infighting and the politics and all that sort of stuff, we can be stronger together. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Gary, Sam?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just quickly from my side, the unity within the industry, I think, is very important. The whole industry, we need to get more unified and stick together stop the price wars and all of that that's going on. And and I know, you know, budgets and things for events can be tricky, but you know, my plea is also to guys, please try not to cut rates for freelancers and say I've only got this much money, whatever. Try the best to keep rates as they are. It will only benefit the entire industry in the long run moving forward. But yeah, I think that's unity within the industry is the biggest thing at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Grant Friars.
Hi there. I agree. I think what we need to do is stop the price wars that we are doing at the moment. We need to support each other. We've all spoken about supporting each other and unity, and I think that's vital in what we need to do. And then also we need to call out those organizations, those organizers, the tech companies that are breaking out the law and making money where they shouldn't be making money and doing things that they shouldn't be doing in the clubs and the taverns. That is also working together, making sure we support each other. So yeah, I think it's very important that we do stick together and talk to each other. Don't be afraid to phone a friend and say, how do we do this? How can I do that? How can we reach a resolution to something? Yeah.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it. Langa.
So I'm aware that there are quite esteemed members of the council, some of whom are in this meeting. I think, like I said, unity. Some of the people said unity. We're stronger together, and I think we're going to have to dispel some of the misconceptions about TPSA, and TPSA has to be honest about some of the hot issues that are out there. You know, I think we need to address racism. We need to address sexism, and we need to address ageism. But yeah, I think so. Those are the misconceptions that I think we need to deal with. But yeah, we're here to help.
Thank you very much, Langa. David.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think the main thing that I want to say is that we need to use this opportunity to educate our customer and our clients and stuff like that. Let it be corporate or government or any type of work that does come in. You know, we at a changing point in the industry, and as we start being allowed to do certain things and certain events and that we need to take this opportunity to educate our let's say our clients on the ways that it should be done properly, instead of being dictated to as to how it should be done, or what they want, and just basically doing stuff just to meet a demand or a spec. We can actually use this opportunity, which helps with budgeting and costing a job right and that type of thing. But we can really use this opportunity to educate the clients and people out there.
Thank you, David. And before I hand over to Kevin to do the actual official closing and his comments, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us that has joined us. Once this webinar is available, I would encourage everybody to share it amongst our community so everybody can get an understanding and know the work that has been done and is being doing. And obviously, all of us from the council, our phones are available. We're always available for a chat. And I'd just like to say thank you for everything that has happened in this last year and the unity that has been there thus far. Let's try and make it tighter and stronger. And from Sharif Baker, I thank you very much. Kevin, over to you for our closing remarks and actually closing the webinar.
Thanks, Sharif. So perhaps just a closing comment from me is to say that we have achieved one hell of a lot as an association over the course of this pandemic. And I know that Sharif in particular has worked very closely with me and put in a level of work that is truly outstanding. But we haven't done this in isolation, and the contribution made by Grant and David and Dave has been very significant. And the contribution of other members of the SACIA board and the other associations Mike Lord, and in particular those other members of the Event Safety Council, has been significant. We have probably 40 or 50 people working as volunteers within SACIA driving our agenda. But the reality is that the level of work that needs to be done is huge. And in blunt terms, the 40 or 50 people that we have working on a volunteer basis is not enough. We need more people to get involved. So, you know, if you're listening to this presentation and you feel that you have something to contribute, please get in touch with any one of these council members and pass on the fact that you'd like to get involved, because we need all the help that we can get. You know, we're trying to be as inclusive as we possibly can be. So yeah, from my perspective, thank you very much to all of the panelists. Thank you very much to all of the members. We are stronger together, and I think that we just need to drive that agenda as we move forward. So thank you very much.